Imagine this. 40,000 years ago, the world is a frozen wilderness. In a cave tucked into a jagged cliff, a group of Neanderthals huddles around a fire. Their broad faces and sturdy frames are built for this brutal cold. Across the valley, a band of Homo sapiens, new arrivals from the sun-scorched plains of Africa, sets up camp. These two groups don't know it yet, but their meeting will change the course of history. They'll share more than just this icy landscape. They'll share love, culture, and genes. Welcome to Prehistoric Connections, where we unravel the epic saga of Neanderthals and humans, a story of survival, intimacy, and extinction that still echoes in our DNA today. Stick with me, because this tale is wilder than any blockbuster, and it's all true. Let's set the stage. 500,000 years ago, the Earth was a theater of ice and fire. Neanderthals, our rugged cousins, roamed the frostbitten wilds of Europe and Asia. Picture them, stocky, with wide noses to warm the frigid air, and brains as big as ours, maybe even sharper in some ways. They hunted woolly mammoths with flint-tipped spears, their breath steaming in the dawn. Meanwhile, Homo sapiens, our direct ancestors, thrived in Africa's savannas, crafting tools and mastering fire. Around 100,000 years ago, humans began their great trek into Europe and Asia, stepping into Neanderthal territory. What was it like when these two species met? Think of it as a prehistoric cultural exchange, but with higher stakes than a modern-day potluck. Neanderthals had mastered survival in a world where winters could kill. Humans brought new tricks, finer tools, maybe even early art. My take? These groups weren't just neighbors. They were curious about each other. I imagine a Neanderthal watching a human carve a bone flute thinking, "That's new." Or a human marveling at a Neanderthal's ability to fell a bison with a single spear thrust. This wasn't just a meeting of bodies, it was a collision of minds. Now, let's get to the juicy part. Interbreeding. Yes, humans and Neanderthals got close. Genetic evidence tells us they mingled as early as 270,000 years ago in Africa and as late as 24,000 years ago in Europe. Picture a starlit night, a human woman and a Neanderthal man sharing a meal by the fire. Maybe they traded stories through gestures, their languages too different for words. Maybe they kissed, passing microorganisms like Methanobrevibacter oralis, a fancy way of saying they shared spit. Anthropologist Laura Wyrick found this bug in ancient teeth, hinting at intimate moments. But it wasn't all romance. Interbreeding had consequences. Human men and Neanderthal women produced viable offspring. Kids with a mix of traits, like the Lapido child from Portugal, with thick Neanderthal-like leg bones, but a human's slender frame. Yet the reverse, Neanderthal men with human women, often led to sterile offspring, like mules or ligers today. Why? My analysis: genetic incompatibility. Like trying to run modern software on an ancient computer. The code just didn't mesh. This sterility might have been a silent killer for Neanderthals, draining their small populations. Let's add some color. Imagine a Neanderthal woman named Kala, her clan dwindling after a harsh winter. A human band arrives, offering trade, furs for tools. Kala catches the eye of a human hunter, Tor. Their union produces a child, but Tor's clan moves on. Kala's child grows strong, carrying human ingenuity into her Neanderthal family. This wasn't just biology, it was a cultural bridge, blending survival strategies. Beyond bedrooms, Neanderthals and humans swapped ideas. Neanderthals, often painted as brutish, were anything but. They buried their dead, maybe even with flowers, suggesting a spiritual side. Humans, with their advanced tools, likely taught Neanderthals new hunting techniques. I think of it like a prehistoric tech transfer. Humans as the Silicon Valley innovators, Neanderthals as the grizzled engineers adapting new blueprints. But not all exchanges were friendly. Competition for resources like game or caves could spark tension. Imagine two bands eyeing the same herd of reindeer. Did they fight or did they share? Evidence leans toward cooperation, but I suspect there were skirmishes. Human speed versus Neanderthal strength. Over time, humans' larger numbers and adaptability gave them an edge, pushing Neanderthals to the margins. Here's where it gets personal. If you're not of purely African descent, you likely carry 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA. That's right, your great to the millionth grandparent was getting cozy with a Neanderthal. This DNA gave us gifts: stronger immune systems to fight European diseases, taller noses to handle cold air, but it came with baggage. That Neanderthal gene linked to severe COVID-19, it's in some of us. Same with risks for arthritis or Dupuytren's disease, where fingers curl unnaturally. Let's break it down. Neanderthal immune genes, like HLA antigens, were a lifesaver 50,000 years ago, helping humans survive new pathogens. Today, they can overreact, causing autoimmune issues. It's like inheriting a double-edged sword, sharp for survival, but risky if mishandled. My insight? This genetic mixing shows evolution's messy brilliance. We didn't just conquer, we absorbed, adapted, and carried forward. To make this vivid, let's draw parallels to modern times. Think of the Sentinelese, an isolated tribe in the Andaman Islands. Like Neanderthals, they've lived apart, their way of life unchanged for millennia. When outsiders approach, there's curiosity but also caution, much like Neanderthals and humans sizing each other up. Or consider the story of the Inuit, who, like Neanderthals, adapted to brutal cold with ingenious tools and tight-knit communities. These modern echoes show how ancient survival strategies still resonate. Another example, the Iceman Otzi, a 5,300-year-old mummy found in the Alps. His DNA shows traces of archaic human ancestry, not unlike the Neanderthal-human hybrids. Otzi's life, hunting, trading, surviving, mirrors the daily grind of our prehistoric ancestors. His story grounds this ancient tale in something tangible: a man, a spear, a frozen world. The big question: what killed the Neanderthals? Interbreeding played a role. Small Neanderthal groups, often just brothers and their mates, couldn't sustain losses from sterile hybrids. Imagine a clan of 20 losing half its women to human unions. No kids, no future. Add to that human competition, our ancestors bred faster, colonized better. My take: Neanderthals didn't lose a war. They faded into us, their legacy in our blood. Climate shifts also hit hard. The Ice Age's ups and downs favored humans' flexibility. Neanderthals, specialized for cold, struggled when forests replaced tundra. It's like a mom-and-pop shop versus a mega-corporation. Adaptability wins. The snow had begun to melt, but only barely. Along the southern slope where the sun touched longest, the ice withdrew inch by inch, revealing damp moss, curled leaves, and the brittle bones of birds long dead. It was late winter, the time when hunger sharpened and patience thinned. In the shallow valley below, a group of Neanderthals sat around a sputtering fire. They didn't speak unless they had to. Every movement, passing dried meat, glancing at the trees, adjusting a fur cloak, meant something. The wood they burned was wet, scavenged from the flooded riverbed. Smoke curled low instead of rising. A young boy tended the fire, feeding it thin twigs, his face chapped and red from cold. Across the circle, a woman with dark hair and sharp eyes stood slightly apart. She was not one of them. Her furs were stitched differently, her tools bound with finer cords. She moved like a bird, cautious, precise, a Homo sapiens. Her people had arrived across the frozen river 20 days earlier, their firelight flickering behind trees like distant stars. At first, there had been tension, spears clutched tighter, eyes watching eyes, but no blood was spilled. One of the Sapiens hunters had fallen sick. The Neanderthals, recognizing the signs, shallow breath, the shaking hands, had offered shelter. Now they shared the fire, if not the language. She didn't speak their words, they didn't speak hers, but they understood warmth. The sick man lay curled near the fire, his chest rising and falling faintly. A Neanderthal woman, her face lined with age and knowledge, gently placed a hollow bone filled with crushed root to the man's lips. The Sapiens woman knelt beside him, placing her hand on his chest to feel the breath. It was slow but steady. Near the edge of the clearing, children played in the slush. Neanderthal and Sapiens alike. They built things from sticks, they mimicked hunters, they threw pretend spears and cracked imaginary bones. They didn't yet know what made them different. Their laughter cut through the frost like sunlight. One Neanderthal man stood farther back, watching the ridge. He held a fire-hardened spear across his shoulders, motionless. He didn't trust the quiet, not after the winter, not after what they'd lost. His gaze moved with every wind-blown branch, every crow's cry. He was always looking for something: food, threat, a future. Behind him, etched into the rock of the cliff wall, were old marks. Wide handprints in red ochre, circles, slashes, fading with time. But there were newer ones too. Spirals, human silhouettes with slightly different forms. Someone had shared something, a symbol, a thought. No one had stopped it. By the time the hunters returned that evening, the sky had dimmed to a bluish haze. Their hands were empty. No meat, no blood, just silence. One dropped a handful of dry lichen into the fire and sat down, saying nothing. The others followed. No blame, no shame, only quiet. So what's the takeaway from this prehistoric saga? It's this: connections shape survival. Neanderthals and humans didn't just fight or flee, they mingled, loved, and learned. Their story isn't about winners or losers, it's about how blending differences creates something stronger. Today, when we face division, cultural, political, social, remember our ancestors. They built bridges across species, under ice and stars. We carry their DNA, their courage, their curiosity. Let's honor that by connecting, not dividing. Subscribe, share, and let's keep exploring the past that made us.